So starting from the foundational class, these foundations are very, very essential, and I would deeply advise that you go to these essentials because there are methods and techniques I'll be engaging as the training goes on that this will really save your life. This would really help you grow very, very fast and to save you a lot of time. Now, talking about 3D Studio Max, when 3D Studio Max is running or is being launched, there are things I look at when I'm actually working on a new 3D Studio Max. For example, currently I'm using 3D Max 2016. If I'm working on 3D Studio Max 2017, there are things I would be very cautious about being an Autodesk licensed instructor. The first thing I do is when I launch the 3D Studio Max, just here, I normally take note of the DLOs and the DLUs that are being loaded into 3D Studio Max. Now, 3D Studio Max is running. It's initializing presently. That's actually setting up its own environment to work in. It's putting all the max. So what I look is I observe all the extensions that have been loaded into 3D Studio Max. I'm going to explain why very shortly. DLS, DLU, file link, DLU. So I'm very certain there's a file link in this version of 3D Studio Max. Body object, entirely DLOs and DLMs, DLCs, okay, DLT, DLE, DLO. So that's just a little bit of an error there. Now, the reason why I do this whenever I'm loading a 3D Studio Max, most times when I'm working fresh on a particular version of 3D Studio Max, not only Max, in fact, every single application I work on. Now, there are times in the studio where the person using the particular system is majorly a modeler, and it just needs only the features that has to do with modeling only on a system, so its system can perform very well. Same thing, you could have someone who's an animator. For example, let's say you have someone who's actually a modeler. For a modeler, for example, he doesn't need the timeline to be functioning. He doesn't, except he has some special preferences based on the studio he's working with. Now, for a modeler also, it doesn't require the material sections to be working, except he's actually a look development artist. So this has actually crippled a lot of production pipelines and has actually crippled a lot of freelancers from actually being able to work on big projects. Because when 3D Studio Max loads up, it loads up every single extension it needs for its work. And you don't need all that extension all through the entire part of your pipeline. At times you could be working on your pipeline as just the modeler, or at times maybe you're done with the modeling phase, you could be working as the rigger, or as the animator, or as the look development artist, or as the scene assembler, for example. So it's very important that when you need to define what a system or what stage of production you are and load Max or Maya based on these features. I've done this, I've developed a pipeline and I've executed this for quite a lot of studios. So if you're logging into a system, for example, you're logging as a modeler, the system is aware of the features and the tools that should be made available to you. As it's able to draw from the license, from the floating license, and able to get you prepared for your session, for your work session party. So here we have 3D Studio Max. This is coming up. I'm also going to be discussing about the configuration of the system I'm using. I'm using a Core i7 that's running at 3.2 gigahertz. It's a 24 gig memory system, and it's using a NVIDIA GTX 760. It's the same system that this job was originally done on about 9 years ago. So I'm using exactly the same hardware configuration on the same job. So I'm going to be guiding you. That's basically for launching up of 3D Studio Max. So if you go into your plugin manager, let's quickly go into my customize and go into my plugin manager. You would see there are quite a lot of plugins that are actually loaded into 3D Studio Max. A lot of them you do not need. So the same feature actually applies to Maya. You could also have the plugin manager entered in Maya, where you could actually control what is loaded and what is not loaded. So you look at DX, you have deferred, and you have loaded. The Apollo DLE, for example, you do not need it on this project. You do not need it, so you can switch it off. So you can create different setups for your 3ds Max, so that depending on what aspect of the project you're actually loading different versions of 3ds Max to actually handle your job. So the BMI DLO, which is the bitmap input output model, which is actually the file that is actually going to be loaded when you get into the material library, for example. I just need to pass this out so that you could know how to get best workflows with 3ds Max. So if you're able to actually do this, you can do quite a lot even on a very small system, maybe a Core i3, maybe even a Pentium. You could do so much jobs on them. So building a very efficient pipeline is very important, very important to the success of your entire project. So this is very good. This is actually very important that you take note of this. So you don't just load up Max or load up Maya and use it the same way you would expect to use that. At the end of the day, you'll be having crashing issues. So that's it for that. If you have any question, you could actually post on the forums. So I'll be able to attend. Either if you're a studio, I don't mind. I'll be able to help you sort out a lot of challenges and bugs you may have in your pipeline. Good.